It's 11 o'clock on the dot.
Hey.
Because we're parents.
All right.
Trying to get through in episode 3 or 4.
You slowing us down.
We got a 6-month-old chilling on the couch.
All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of...
Sorry. I didn't get my laugh out.
All right. Take 2.
Okay.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of...
This and Ours. Oh, that's not the name of our podcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Us and Ours.
The podcast.
So... Right. So, let you take over with the special shout out for this week.
Yes. So you guys have been very supportive of some of the shorts that we've released with the anticipation of the launch of our full episode. But we wanted to shout out The Tiny Tassel that's located here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Yep.
They're a small boutique that advertise joy through apparel and accessories, and they allowed us to hit, that sounds so funny, they let us hit 100.
They were our
the
100th subscriber
100th
on Instagram.
It's not subscriber on Instagram.
It was our
you should have just let me
100th
finish.
follower on Instagram.
And it's 11 p.m. so
You said they allowed us to hit.
It's 11 p.m.
Shout out to Tiny Tassel.
Shout out, guys.
You guys were our 100th follower on Instagram. So we'll appreciate that. Now we are trying to get the subscriber count up on YouTube. So definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel.
Yes.
And share the channel with the people in your circle. Definitely like the videos. But above all, comment because
talk to us.
It's about the interaction, right?
Mm-hmm. And, one of your questions or comments may spark another episode.
Spark an episode title.
Yeah, whether you're watching this on whatever platform, keep in mind we're trying to build our community.
YouTube.
So subscribe. Thank you.
Subscribe to the YouTube. Us and Ours.
Yes.
The podcast.
But tonight.
Jumping into tonight's episode.
Yeah, we are going to be talking about the courage to get started.
Right.
We are 2 now full-time entrepreneurs, and we know from the outside that looks like sunshine and butterflies.
You said now like we just made it.
Well, I'm just saying it because
both of us.
A lot of people be like, oh my God, I can't wait to do that, or I can't wait to get there. So we're going to talk about
for the faint of heart.
The courage to get started.
Courage to get started. Not only that, but hopefully you can take some of this into other areas of your life, because I'm pretty sure we'll hit some other spots. So even this channel, like, it was a little courage to start the channel. But yeah, let's get into it. So the courage to get started, why do you need courage to get started on anything? Your opinion, or even from your experience, what does courage have to do with getting started on something?
You need somebody to, well, maybe not somebody, but
courage. I say courage.
You need to be your own cheerleader. You can do it. Or whatever, speak to yourself.
Let y'all know this is the second time we're recording this.
Third. Ezra.
Technically the second. Ezra kind of talked the first time we were recording. So to answer the question I just proposed, I guess, I think for anybody who's, stepping out to do anything, I do believe it takes an overall courage to step out and do it. It takes a different level of courage to, whether you're stepping out on entrepreneurship, whether you're stepping out to, you're stepping out in ministry or you stepping out to speak in front of people, it takes a certain level of courage. So that's why we named it the courage to get started, because one of the things you do need in order to get started is courage. But from your experience, what has getting started on certain endeavors look like for you? What has been your experience?
So with the both of us being two full-time entrepreneurs, I feel like we have two totally different processes when it came to the courage of getting started, in a sense.
Right.
So for me personally, this is my sixth. Yeah, I'm in year number 6 as a full-time entrepreneur. 5 or 6, one of those. I wanted to make sure I wasn't lying. Like, was I dependent on any other income? 5 or 6. You can quote me on that. So for me, life was pretty convenient for me. Things were going pretty well. I had a really great paying job. So me getting started, while I did go through a neck injury and you had things I needed to consider, it wasn't like I was starting something to earn more money. I was already comfortable, in a sense.
Okay, so you was just doing it to, like a better term, supplement an income. You was just doing it, well, I guess, just to have a little more cash.
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it started. Now, of course, with life and like I said, getting injured on the job, it became like the dependency on my business literally went from this to everything. But I think that my experience of stepping out was actually, for a lot of people, it's a struggle. A lot of people, when they are comfortable or when they are making the money, you telling somebody like that, hey, leave your job and go full time. The first question would probably be, for what? Why? But then talking to somebody who may not be making the income like that, and they see that their gift or whatever can easily double that, they may have more of a push to get started. So for me, my vision of my candle company, that was something that the Lord gave me just throughout a space of fighting through depression. And it was something that I wanted to share with the world. So getting started, it looked strange. I did take time to do my research, but I do believe I was more in a comfortable space. I wasn't paying for a mortgage. My parents made it very easy for me to get started, even though I was like the first one in the family to be like, hey, I'm about to leave my job. So I know it sounded funny. Shout out to my daddy, knowing him, he was not like, girl, what's wrong with you? It was like, you think you could do this? And I'm like, yep. And now knowing that I said, yeah, at that point, I had nothing prepared. Like, I did not sit down to make this plan. I think I was just like, hey, I'm just going to go set up for some markets once a week and set my price. I was always going to set my price right, but I honestly believed that people were going to buy it and everything was going to pop off from the jump. And I don't know what type of faith that was. I need to get back to that level. But with that type of mindset I had at that time, I literally left my job as soon as I was given the okay by God to do so. And I went with it, having $30-something to start my first batch of candles. I went with it, starting a candle line with only 1 cent. It sounds so weird when you say it now, but I got started. And once I got started, seeing the return or the response that people got, the response that I got just in a short span of doing something without the second guessing, I'm so glad I got started. So over, the last few years, it's been very rewarding to see how that type of faith curated a path of, like, I think one of the biggest accomplishments was purchasing my own house as a full-time entrepreneur, still not really knowing all of the ins ins and outs. So it wasn't
True.
that like I finally figured it out and now I look great on paper. I made a lot of bad decisions, but I learned along the way, and everything that came up, I took it as a learning experience, and I took time to figure out how to go about it better. So I do believe that I saw the harvest of what getting started looked like. Our child just woke up, and I did all of that work to put him to sleep. Please go back to sleep, Ezra. Okay. Hold on, guys. No, the software. The nap is up. And we're back. So, excuse me. So as I was saying, getting started, knowing I did not know everything, but taking the time to talk to people who had more knowledge. One of my friend James, if you're watching this, I remember setting a meeting with him because I was like, oh, what business like people do I have in my life? At that time, it was just like 2. And I set a meeting. I was like, hey, bro, like, this is what's happening in my mind. Like, let's just sit down and you give me feedback. And he gave me feedback. And I still have it recorded on my phone to this day. And it was like, okay. And it kind of put me in the mindset of how I needed to think as a business owner.
Right.
But that was my story. But for you, babe, I know that it wasn't as simple as that. So what really pushed you to like actually get started?
What pushed me to get started? I think it was maybe one or two things, right? I think the first thing was, I think like most people, you're in a situation at your current 9 to 5, and you kind of fed up with your current 9 to 5, and then so that'll be one thing, and then the second thing was I felt the leading of God to go into the video production arena. That's honestly something that I wasn't looking to go into at all. Like, I was kind of the person who was like, especially for our culture, I was like, man, we need to succeed in something else outside of entertainment. So it was actually like I guess an aha moment, I guess, for me, when it was like your whole life. I mean, since I was like 9, I guess, it was always like, we need to succeed in something else other than the entertainment world, and then end up in the entertainment world was kind of a aha moment for me. And it wasn't that I was, so passionate about it, but those two things, it was a combination of, you getting tired of your 9 to 5, and, also that leading of the Holy Spirit to say, this is where I'm kind of directing you. So for me, it was a little tougher because I was leaving a 9 to 5, newly married,
Yeah, I
right?
just got married.
Newly married. I was leaving a 9 to 5, and although we didn't know about Ezra at that moment, he was coming in later. So the first, I would say, 6 months of entrepreneurship was kind of extremely like out there for me. It was like, I wouldn't even tell nobody to do it the way I did it unless
the Lord
they
tells
heard
you
God
to.
say that, because I left, and I didn't. Let me back up a little bit. I was doing part-time video work, so I didn't leave my job and just start at cold feet. I was doing it part-time for about a year and a half or something like that before I went part-time. So the courage for me in getting started was honestly just to forego the security of a 9 to 5 job. Forego that security in order to jump out there and really work for the possibility of doubling or tripling what I was already making.
Do you feel as though you had everything in place to leave, or was it mostly like a faith walk for you?
No, I had the necessities to get started, right? I think some of us, well, I know I was there when, when it comes to certain things like video production work, it's always, gearheads are always like that next new item, that next new piece of gear. Like you can't do a production without it. And so part of it was like, oh man, I think I need this or I think I need that. But overall, I had the necessities to get started. Like if you got one camera, a tripod, and a light,
I didn't
you got the
mean
necessities
gear.
to get started.
I guess I meant like the plan, like the plan of action.
Did I have the plan of action?
Like for me, I was just like, I'm just going to show up, do some events. That was not the best plan, but I thought that was enough to sustain being a full-time entrepreneur. So was it more of like, I have the plan of action, so I'm comfortable leaving my 9 to 5, or was it more so I'm really just being obedient to the Holy Spirit and doing it in the timing that he told me to?
Okay. Well, looking at it that way, it was more of I'm just being obedient to the Holy Spirit. Now, I did have a plan in place, but it wasn't it wasn't enough to like, take to the bank for a loan on your business plan. It wasn't nothing like that. So I didn't necessarily know the track path, but I did have a small plan in place. I don't ever really push out on something without having some kind of plan in place or some kind of understanding of what I'm doing.
So I think that one of the things that has helped us is really knowing who you are. So like for me, I had a few moments where I would question, hey, if you were trying to run your business part-time and still work someplace else, do you really think that you would try as hard as you have tried to be successful? And honestly speaking, I don't think so. I think because all of my financial dependency came from my business, it made me work harder, not work harder in a like you're not getting any sleep, but it made me be more intentional with actively seeing results. So I've spoken to a lot of people who it's like, well, I'll finally do it when this happens, or I'll finally do it when that happens. So my advice would be know yourself. Like really know yourself. If you are a person who can operate to your full potential and be comfortable, shout out to you. I don't know many who can. But if you know that, hey, it's going to actually take more than being comfortable for me to actually do what needs to be done to see progress, consider that. Now, this does not mean that I'm advertising for everybody just go out and quit your job. Don't hold me to that. But know yourself when you are about to make such a drastic move. And then I know for us as a team is like also having that faith in each other, being that we literally got married and you told me that the Lord gave you a timeline, which was 2 weeks after we got married?
No, because
the date
knew.
No, I'm not saying you told me 2 weeks. I'm saying the date that he gave you was 2 weeks, like 2 weeks after the wedding. Yeah. So I know for us it was I believe that our faith is really what gave us the comfort, because everything we pre-planned in a sense was based on what finances looked like at that time. It was like what was the comfortability in life at that time, and then we said I do, and it was like, okay, this is how the Lord is leading us. And it was like a complete shift. Like, son, I want you to do that. Daughter, I want you to take a break. For me, I went into like a little break or a little slight pause in my business, and then for you you went from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship. So
Right.
I just wanted to say that because I wanted people to know it wasn't this, oh, your businesses were just popping off, so
Oh no, I
you
no
got
doubt.
this big break and now y'all out
Oh.
here trying to tell us something, but it came from this huge blessing. And it's like, nah,
I
it
know.
came
By
from
no
obedience.
means was the business popping at all. That's why I said earlier, I wouldn't advise anybody to get started the way I did unless, the Holy Spirit, unless God is, convicting, unless God is on your heart to do it that way, right? Because when I got started, I didn't have a bunch of clientele in my back pocket. I didn't have, thousands of dollars lined up waiting for the production to happen. I didn't have that. So I just went out and procrastinated a little bit and got a few jobs here and there and, trusted the Lord in between those lines. So, yeah, it wasn't, sometimes it sounds good to say we are a house of entrepreneurs, but the journey wasn't and still isn't easy in some ways. So to be honest, because we're talking about the courage to get started, one of the main reasons for starting this channel was not to talk about the successes of life, but to really
Hound in on the process.
open like kind of our process in a way.
Yeah.
And through that you'll begin to see an actual journey, like an actual journey of a married couple, an actual journey of two entrepreneurs, an actual journey of two parents. And within that, you get to walk that journey with us, because most times we hear people reflecting back on what they did. And it sounds good and it can be kind of motivational when you hear about what people did and the challenges they went through, but it may be a little different from what we're doing. It may be a little bit different because you're going to actually kind of go through that process with us. So we have a lot of growing to do, and that was the real reason behind getting this channel started, to show you that journey versus looking back and saying, oh, we went through that. So
I think sometimes when I pause to actually look back, it's like so much has happened in like such a small time frame. So even when I got started, I had this set look of what I thought it was going to be. And what was funny, I have two businesses. One is the candles, self-care products, and then the other is the massages. And when I got started, the massages I thought was something I was going to hang up. It was like,
right.
I'm going to just do the candles. And I remember launching just the candles, and my friend Jamita, she called and was like, it really doesn't make sense for you not to do the massages. They go hand in hand. And
shout out Jamita for the accountability.
That's my vision partner, my vision friend. And one of the ladies I work with at the time, or I used to work with, she had a little room, and she was like, Ebeny, you want a room? I'm like, what do I need a room for? If you want to take clients. So keep in mind, this isn't something I prayed about. It was literally just offered. And I was like, I guess, how much is it? And I think we started at $25 a week, something like gas money. It was like, if you want to use a room once a week, have at it. So I was like, okay, cool. That was nothing. I was making a lot of money. If I get access to a room, cool. So I took her up on the offer. And then I think within a month, I was like, oh, Tam, I actually need the room,
more than... Yeah.
Let's try it for twice a week. Let's try it for 3 times a week. And even when I was there on a regular basis, she was still charging me buku money. And I remember once I started advertising that I wanted to advertise self-care to the point where it was product and service, I didn't really have patience to build my clientele. I didn't. So I called, even though I've always been big on price, I call myself calling Groupon. We know what prices are on Groupon, guys.
This was a phase right here.
I didn't have patience. I think I promoted for like a week, and I was like, if nobody's booking, what's next? Like, my patience was very short. But I called Groupon, and I set up a campaign, and I was negotiating. I'm like, y'all ain't about to sell my massages for this small rate. And they were like, ma'am, like, this is the norm.
This is Groupon.
Why
are you calling us if you don't if you don't want to sell your massage for $20?
But anyway, so even when I submitted to the little contract, I was like, well, I'm only going to do it for like a month, and then if I do good, this is what I want in return. So anyway, after going back and forth with them, I was very successful on Groupon. I think I was like the top rated spa in the location that I was at. But I learned quickly it is very important to have a target audience. So even with the successes of it, God showed me that I had this dependency on it, and I was working my butt off for dimes, like pennies and dimes. It wasn't even worth it. Just booked and busy, ain't, getting buku money. So I remember.
When you say buku, you mean a little bit of money?
Yeah, what's wrong with that? People don't know what that means? That's a country thing?
I thought buku meant a lot.
Oh, shoot. It probably. Once again, it's 11. It's almost. I don't know what time it is. It's late.
I just wanted
you
them to know.
You always trying to embarrass me on these channels.
I just wanted them to know. I said I think it means a lot.
I think it does. Money. I said that backwards. I was getting a little bit of money.
Non-buku money.
Okay. So I remember it wasn't until, like, I told God, I was like, okay, I think first I cut it down. I was like, I'm only going to sell like 10 vouchers a month. And then the Lord's like, you're still not trusting me. And then I brought it down to, I'm not using Groupon anymore. Like, I thought because I massaged all those people, I'm like, they're going to come back. They're going to lock into my membership. I only have one client that's still with me from Groupon because that was not my target. But anyway, once I did that, I don't know if you guys can hear Ezra crying on this mic, but take 2. That's the real cry. Look at this leg.
You was hot, buddy.
Okay, take 2 with Ezra now. But I remember once I gave up the dependency on Groupon, it was back to, all right, Ebeny, figure it out. And during that time, numbers got slim, but actively promoting, making sure I gave certain people really good services. I started understanding how great word of mouth helps. And then even when my time at that location was up and I went someplace else that was triple the rent, and that was with favor, God literally opened the doors, and it was during COVID. Like, it was like this overflow of clientele during COVID. And I didn't get COVID while massaging people during the season of COVID. So, like, even the protection and the success during the time where a lot of people saw just drought, it really encouraged me to just move and operate freely under his guidance without the dependency on what things should look like on paper, and I don't think I would have seen any of that if I didn't get started or if I kept my dependency on something that made it easy in the process.
That's good. So, just hearing about, her story and, the process that she went through. I'm gonna say this. People say getting started is the hard part, and to a certain extent, it's the hard part. It's one of the hard parts because there's a difference from getting started and then sustaining what you're doing or increasing what you're doing. That's a hard part also. But each of the journeys have like different phases to them. They have different branches, if you would say, to it. So what when it comes to getting started, as far as like we named this episode the courage to get started.
What does that look
in
like?
in all of your endeavors, from the time you just started the spa, into going into the Groupons, into letting go of the Groupons, and going into a new space, and you started out with one candle line, and then
One
kind of
candle.
pushed it, one candle, and then kind of pushed it to multiple candles. Um, did you see any, like, was there any kind of common denominator as far as what pushed you to start on each level, to go from one level to another, to actually start in that new level?
Yeah. My common denominator was not procrastinating once I saw something else. And when I say saw, I do mean like vividly saw. So for an example, I was making candles in my parents' house for a decent period of time. And I shot them out, Grace Salon Suites here in Charleston. I had my spa there, and one day I pulled up just to go for massages, and there was this huge suite that was available, and the Lord literally showed me a candle workshop. My first thought was like, I ain't about to pay for no more. I'm not about to increase my rent. I'm not doing that. But I didn't let that thought stop me. So I think within 24 hours, I reached out to Charmin and I was like, hey, I don't know if this is still available, but I saw a candle workshop. I don't really want to know what the rent is, but I need to know what the rent is. And she and her husband, they gave me a lot of favor to get started, to buy the supplies that I needed, all the preparation that went into it. And once I got started, that's really when a lot of people started knowing about like the candle side of the business.
Yeah.
It was an opportunity. The space was large enough for people to come in and do workshops. So that was probably like the biggest example. But literally anytime the Lord, and I know I'm going to keep talking about him because he plays such a pivot part in the transitions of my business.
Right.
Anytime he showed me something, that is the common denominator, or, hey, do this, or reach out to that person. It sounds like small stuff, but I've gotten to the point where my faith in moving immediately is still present, even if I don't see a response right away. Because there's been moments when he say, hey, reach out to this person or reach out to this company. And in the moment, they may be like, we don't need your services, but I've seen it come back within a few months, or I've seen the response to it. And sometimes it's not just for my benefit. It can be for the benefit of somebody else. But I think actively seeing how something may not always make sense on paper, but communicating,
Right.
sharing what I'm trying to accomplish with people, I know that has given me a lot of favor, and a lot of help along the way. So I remember you telling me, as my husband is like, hey, when you start giving speeches, you need to remember to give a lot of people shout outs, because your journey
You didn't
involved
do that journey by yourself.
Yeah, your journey involved a lot of people who literally showed up and gave favor time and time and time again. So even when I mentor other people, I'm like, hey, I don't know. I can't necessarily say your life is going to look how mine looked, because I literally went with the leading of the Holy Spirit. And I know that he touched the hearts of a lot of people to make my journey seamless and easier for me.
Yeah. And I think those were, you said a few key things there. It was, especially those who consider themselves as, Christians or followers of Christ, when it comes to the leading of the Holy Spirit for you to do something. The thing is to just trust him in it, right? So the two things that kind of stuck out was just being able to not being afraid to ask questions, or ask people about things, not being afraid to put out there the vision that you have, because some people are going to help you run with it. Some people are going to give you access, and I think that's one of the things that allows people, or that's one of the causes for people to procrastinate. I know that was me when it came to, for the most part, I was stuck on analysis, right? I was, as they call it, analysis paralysis. I was kind of stuck on that, which led to procrastination. And I was, sometimes when you see the big picture, you don't see how to get there, and that kind of stalemates you. So one thing a lot of people, one thing they fall short to is, or fall victim to, is not being able to see the access to resources. But it's something simple as asking somebody, or
Strangers.
telling somebody, your vision. Now, we want to be careful with it, but if you don't share it with somebody,
who is holding you accountable?
Who is gonna give you the access? The access is within us asking questions, within us sharing with people what we're trying to. Everybody is not trying to steal our idea. Let's be real. Everybody's not trying to steal your idea. So like you said, just the fact of asking, going and ask them, what's the price on this room? It wasn't about, I can't afford it, so I'm not going to ask. It was more of the Lord showed me something, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask about it. I may not be able to afford it right now, but he wouldn't have showed me that if it wasn't for me to obtain. So it's going on and asking her, hey, what's the price on this? And then it's like, this is what the Lord is showing me. And then, whether the Lord moved for this particular situation, you said the Lord moved on her heart, right? Her and her husband, and they was able to help you get started. And some people, that's not going to happen. That wasn't my story for most of my journey of this entrepreneurship thing, right? Most of my journey was, you paying full price for what we got.
And let's talk about investment, guys.
Most of my journey was you paying the full investment, that whatever you want, you're going to pay the full price. And what I saw was God came through with giving me the ability to pay the full price. And whereas you were saying, God came through in the manner of giving you favor, and it's favor for both of us, to be honest. He gave you favor to work on. He worked on other people's heart to get it to where it was affordable for you at the moment. Whereas for me, he gave me favor in generating the money to get it even at its full price. So I think, sometimes we become too churchy in a sense and think that favor, I shouldn't say churchy, too religious in saying that favor always looked like this huge discount, when the favor that I've experienced, and the favor that to be honest I'm accustomed to, is he gives me the resources to get what I need even at the full price. I don't care if it's the full price. He's going to get me the resources to get it. And
then mine typically comes at a discount or free. I bless the Lord for my favor.
So I do my research in order to not buy it at its highest price, but as far as some of the things, not to go down that road again. So was you saying something? I thought you were saying something.
I wanted to talk about investment when it comes to the courage and getting started. I know that a lot of times finances can make a lot of people just stop. It's like, I'm not about to pay that. If you can't guarantee me that it's going to have this type of return, and if you can't guarantee it, I'm going to see the return in this amount of time, I'm not doing it. And that is not, for business, that is not.
There's very few guarantees in business. If your effort is not the guarantee, don't look for the results to be the guarantee.
That's not how it works. So even in moments of, I appreciate you, because even in moments of when it comes to our finances, there's been times where I've hit a wall. I would say with the business mind of things, and I'll say, husband, I need help, or I need to invest in a coach, or invest in somebody who has more knowledge in this. And not once were you They want to charge what? Huh? Your response is typically, okay, how do you believe that person can help you, and can you
Yeah.
use what they're giving you to move at a faster rate? And if
Right.
I say the second part, you would do whatever is necessary to allow me to have, even if it's just a conversation. But I think that's because I'm just not going to let the information fall doormat. So there's a lot of people
Yeah.
who made the investment, but then they do nothing.
They do nothing with it.
They'll go sign up for all the courses, go to the conferences, and at some point you have to pause and say, okay, what am I going to do with all of this information? So even praying to discern what type of mentor you need or what type of accountability you need, all of that plays a role in what are you going to actually do with the investment that you give. So while I know I laughed about like my favorite being discounted or free, hey, this didn't mean that I didn't take the time to invest in the seasons where I needed to invest. So
Yeah, not all your favor was discounted.
yeah,
No.
so that doesn't mean like just because you may send a DM, somebody might hit you with my consultation calls are $250. Somebody else may be like, oh, we could just sit down and have some coffee, but be open to getting the information that is needed. I know for me, I've shared with, well, mostly like family members. It's like, hey, you want to reach out to me because I'm in business, but have you taken the time to reach out to strangers? Talk to people. Get what you need. If they say, hey, I figured this out because I invested $1,000 in this, don't look at it with the side eye. Clearly it worked for them. So like do something about it. And I know for us, because we have our eyes on the mark of what type of lifestyle we want to live, what we want to set for our children, wanting to have the flexibility, wanting to have a team in place. Even though I feel like we're in a season of sacrifice, we understand that, hey, all of this is going to pay off in the next few years. Time spent in this, time spent in that is going to pay off. So getting started, please don't let money be the reason you still sitting on the couch or you still haven't launched something because you don't want to do something as simple as paying $30 to have your website active. Like, it sounds funny, but there's a lot of people that's like, well, I don't want to do that. And having a business is like having another baby. So you have to pay. You want to see a return? There are things you're going to have to do. I don't know why I went off on a tangent. Maybe somebody needed to hear that.
You up here fussing.
Yeah, but don't let the investment be the pause of why you're not getting started. We talked about fear.
I think people have to understand what the investment is and really believe in the investment. It's like what you said. You said when you would come to me and say, hey, I want to invest in this coach or invest in this course, one of my first questions were, how is it going to help you? Mm-hmm. And like, how soon can you implement whatever, they're talking about or whatever this course is about? And if those two things equal, is going to help me get reach here, and I get started now, I was cool with it because I know you are not a person who's going to sit on information. Like, it's a lot of information junkies out there who just know a lot, but they're not moving in it. I was that person at one time. I was Mr. Fitsin' too. I was that Mr. Fitsin' too. I'm fixing to do this. I'm fixing to do that. Once I looked in the mirror and saw that I was like that, that's what actually got me started. Because some things is like we deem it as getting started, but it's not necessarily getting started. Like, you had a coach, right? Or you took an online course and it's like, I got started.
Talking about me?
No, just in general.
Okay.
I'm using you for an example, but other people do it too, right? Like, I hired this coach or I took this online course and it's like, I got started. And the question is like, is that really getting started?
Or
like that's the start of information, but are you really getting started with the action part of it?
Yeah.
Because some people get stuck in that information phase. So I think one of the things about getting started is actually moving in action, actually moving forward with things that people can see, whether you having a conversation with different people, whether you going out to different networking groups, and I'm talking to the choir here because that's me.
Setting
Whether
deadlines
you're just
for yourself.
Yeah, setting deadlines, putting your stuff out there, putting yourself out there, because you know, in reality, if nobody knows you exist, then nobody's going to come to you for anything. So getting started is more than just the educational piece. Is the one thing. I mean, educational piece is important, but get started means to put in that action, that movement, that kinetic energy in that process. So,
ooh, can I add something here?
Go ahead, go right ahead.
Also, when getting started, don't rely on, and when I say support, I don't just mean financial, but don't rely on the support of people you know to be what keeps you going. Because most of the time, what we are venturing out into has nothing to really do with the people we know. So
yeah, don't be family or friend system dependent, right? Because for one, usually
that's not even your target audience.
They're not your target audience. They're not going to tell you the truth about your whatever you have.
They'll say congratulations
because they're supporting you.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but in order to be truly successful in business, you need people that's going to tell you
get out
the
your feelings.
Honest truth.
Yeah. One of my pet peeves. Well, please don't take this the wrong way, but I don't like when people say, "Hey, I'm buying this because I want to support you," and I'm always like, "Okay, thanks. I don't really know what you want me to say," and I think it's because my mind is not on just doing something for support. Like, I see value in what I do. I see value in what I give. So I appreciate those moments, but that's not what I'm doing it for.
Right.
So it makes me feel better when somebody comments on, "Hey, I'm just buying this because I see the value in it." Yeah. Cool, because it takes the emotion out of it. And I think when we rely so much on emotion, we'll be mad if we post something and only 2 people liked it. Why are your feelings hurt? Does it matter? Like, it has nothing to do with the likes or it doesn't have anything to do with the small stuff, in a sense.
Yeah, I think some people may disagree with me on this, but usually when people are buying from you that, you know, they buy because they support, in a sense, is like, you know, those are the people who, you know, they buy one time, or they buy because you was in a place they were in. As business owners, you know, you want people to buy because they value what you have. And if they value what you have, they're going to always come back. They're going to become like loyal, in a sense.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas some people who support, you know, they support you because you were sitting at the table at this event, and it's like, well, I'm come buy this from you since you of this group or whatever. So I think that's what you was meaning in that sense. So when it comes to getting started, or even the courage to get started, I think some of the things that I've learned in the process, even that we've talked about, is we've talked about between each other, and even shared between each other. Well, that's talked about, ain't it?
Babe, same thing. It's okay. It's late.
Is like, one is knowing why you're doing whatever you're doing.
That's very important.
Because that's going to give you the drive to do it. And sometimes you may have to search for that why. You may have to search for I had to search for my why, because, you know, to be honest, I wasn't passionate about video production. I wasn't passionate about film and whatnot. But when I realized what was my why behind it, I realized the video part is the vehicle to my why. Like, it's the medium, it's the vehicle that gets me to accomplish the why. And so definitely know your why when you're talking about getting started on something.
Yeah. And that speaks to, even if it's not like a financial gain, I think that makes it not feel like work. That makes it, to me, it does.
I think financial gain should be one of the last should be one of the last whys you have for something.
Yeah, because that's not going to keep you. That's
Yeah,
not
your
going to keep
priority
your
shouldn't be.
momentum.
Yeah.
Because at some point, if you just have a lot of money and you're miserable, don't be like the people in the movies who just die alone. That's depressing. But like when it comes to your why, I know we were speaking like from an entrepreneurship perspective, but there are some people who has been hesitant to step out on just maybe creating a community, maybe starting a blog, maybe like in those scenarios, you may not see a return in a financial way, but you don't know if your why can literally save people's lives. And I don't always mean that on like a ministry perspective, but there's a lot of people when God when God places things inside of us, is typically not just for us.
It's rarely
not
solely
just
for
for
us.
us.
It's always because God is relational, so it's about other people.
Yeah.
Why would he give you something that only serves you?
Right.
That's kind of
so that alone should conflict you to not sleep on what is inside of you. Like that is not just for your house. That is not just for, whoever you see on a regular basis. Actually ask God, like, okay, how do I need to use this gift? I'm not just here to live selfishly. Right. And I know for me, like even in my massage sessions, they've started to become 3 hours long, but it's because, but I'm more happier. I'm at peace because I'm being intentional. My gas tank full in a sense.
right. Your why keeps you going in good times, and your why keeps you going
even in bad times. So
low times, high times, whatever you want to call it.
We don't start operating out of desperation.
Right. And then your why leads you to want to improve on what you're doing. Some people get they become complacent in what they're doing, and when you lean into your why, you always want to improve what you're doing, because then you know that you're touching other people's lives. You know that it's not just about you. If you find out that your why is just about your desires,
you need to go back to the Lord in
recheck
prayer.
your why. But most people, their whys is to reach other people. Even if your why is you have this company or you have this thing in order to generate money or whatever for something else. Your why is that something else. Like I was saying earlier, that thing that's generating the money is just your vehicle in order to do what's over here. So I think a lot of people need to hear that, because for your company, it may look like you're just trying to generate a lot of money, but your why ends up being generating here so I can help over here. And so that's one thing, understanding your why. Would you add something else to when it comes to getting started? What else you would need as outside of courage? Because you do need the courage to just get out there.
Oh, I would say, I think I've said this, but I want to shed light on it. Pray about who your accountability circle should be.
Because you said Jamita earlier. You mentioned her earlier, so I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, she was like my vision friend. So like the friend I can share the ideas with, even if it's fresh. But when it comes to like an accountability circle, it may be strangers. I can't tell you how to figure out what that is other than pray about it. Because I was the person that like slid into DMs of people I literally did not know. And it wasn't, probably was weird, but they're still in my life today. So I guess it wasn't too weird. But ask God, like who those individuals need to be. It may just be one person, and for what season.
Right.
Because some people may feel like they need to be a part of the process from the beginning up until the end. And sometimes it's just for a short period of time, because I don't need to keep updating you unless the Lord told me to. But yeah, that's a big thing. I know we haven't like talked about this, but I do feel that to like whoever is watching this, for people who are hesitant to like just say a prayer, for people who may be feeling stagnant or fearful due to whatever reasons. Then I
Okay.
guess we could pray and then end it on from out of there. End it on there. So God, I thank you for whoever the individual is who's taking time to just listen. God, if there's any hesitation, any doubt on their mind when it comes to the vision that you have given them, the thought that you have placed on their heart, God, I pray, God, that you just allow them to push forward, even if they don't have all of the answers. Allow them to get started. Even if they are hesitant, God, allow them to write it down. God, whatever their path needs to look like for them, God, I pray, God, that you will ignite their faith to match it. Allow them to have peace in what their path needs to look like. I pray, God, that you bless them, God, with divine connections, God, that you bless them, God, with the resources that they need, and God, that you bless them, God, with the confirmation that is needed as well. Allow whatever they see in the natural eye not to cause hesitation on how they need to move. But God, I pray, God, that you just allow them to trust you and trust on you in a spiritual way. And whether they see the result of it immediately, I pray, God, that they would just keep going, And when that happens, and when it is time to share the testimony, God, that they would know that it was you, and God, it was not based on their own dependency. So God, I pray, God, that this episode is just an encouragement to whoever it is that you are speaking to. And I pray, God, that no matter how many times they come back and watch this, God, that each time they watch it, they will be crossing things off of their list, God, as they move forward and get started. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, guys, we appreciate you tuning in for this episode. You know, if you trying to get started on some things, just let us know in the comments if you are willing to just hear it. If you want encouragement on it, or if you just want us to be there to pray for you within your journey,
Yes.
definitely drop it in the comments, and we definitely will pray with you and on your behalf. And outside of that, remember to subscribe. And until the next episode, peace out.
Peace.